we always get asked two questions: who lived here, who lives here now, and referrals to other Native businesses, or sort of referrals and verifying the authenticity of Native-made products. So I shifted things a little bit, and I'll be talking more about that today. Our land acknowledgement, I like to show this because we use our names that we chose from our tribe, not the names that were given to us. And you'll see here, we love maps at the museum. We've been incorporating them more into our programming. You can see here just the vastness and diversity of the tribal nations in the Midwest with their traditional names and locations. And then the tribal nations that were in Illinois. You can see how many of them, we're going to try to not think that there were just tribes in Illinois, that they were in this greater Great Lakes area. And then again, there's 11 federally recognized tribes in Wisconsin and 12 in Michigan. Many of those people are here. And then in the surrounding area, there are approximately 70,000 Native people. A little bit about me. This is my family. My husband and my sons and I live in Glencoe. We relocated here in 2017 after decades of federal service in Washington, D.C. And then this is just a picture of me in my former work, working with the Bureau of Indian Education in communications and a lot of suicide prevention work. So this is down at the Havasupai tribe, down at the bottom of the Grand Canyon. I'm also a small business owner. When I relocated to the Chicago area, I was very sad to leave my work in Washington, D.C., and decided to just continue that work in a different capacity. So 2 former coworkers and I started Wolf River Consulting, 3 Native women, and we still continue to do a lot of work with the federal government, mostly the Indian Health Service and Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration. And the majority of that work is in Washington, D.C. But I want to thank Andrew and Susan, who I met almost shortly after I moved here. And they have been really instrumental in introducing me to other business owners in the Native community in Chicago. This is a few pictures of my family. Business ownership has always been in my family. You see there's a book cover with Queen Marinette. That's my grandmother many generations back. She was a entrepreneur in the fur trade and had businesses from Quebec to Chicago. She is, the town Marinette in Michigan is named after her. Her son is also considered the founder of Sheboygan, Wisconsin. And then throughout the generations, my family has owned businesses on the Menominee Reservation. And I've always been told it was out of necessity because they weren't always able to access things off the reservation. So you can see here on the right, that was my extended family's grocery store. We no longer own it, but it was really important in that there was no place to buy groceries for about 20 miles. So this was a really important, it's tiny, but just a really important center to access food. My family has also been in the forestry and logging business. You can see my family here. I'm cutting logs. And then also everything is sort of related to the environment. They had trout ponds. And my father was the first person on the reservation to earn an MBA. And he went off and he worked in the corporate world as an engineer, and then came back to help Native business owners. So I feel really lucky that I've had that built-in system and support, having been from a family of business owners. It also makes me appreciate how difficult and how much work goes into it. I wanted to take that and bring that into the museum. So the Mitchell Museum is a small museum. We're going through kind of a major transformation right now. So our new purpose is to learn, celebrate, and share Native cultures. And our mission is to increase the visibility and elevate Native voices through education, advocacy, and awareness. And this means supporting other Native artists and businesses. So as part of this policy change, we've gone to strictly buying native. So everything that you see in our gift shop, everything that's sold from the museum comes directly from a native vendor. And then we, as much as possible, we try to utilize services from native-owned businesses. We're also trying to create a platform for emerging and established artists and authors. So we've developed a monthly artist and author discussion. Those are every month. They're free. They're online. And we feature a lot of their books and products in our gift shop. It's really been transformational for them. Their sales go way up. I don't know if any of them are here that we've worked with. And we've formed partnerships with a lot of non-Native organizations to broaden their understanding of Native arts. One of the most successful things we did this summer was develop a partnership with Goodman Theater. And we had 9 Native artists perform, sort of like thinking out of the box about what Native performance and music is. And it has just like springboarded their careers since then. And then this is something I love doing, establishing and maintaining networks for those Native artists to grow. So I love it. Every day my email is full of questions about referrals and helping these organizations understand like who to work with and if they're authentic. And that's great because it shows that people have an interest and they care. So since we've made these changes, we've had some major outcomes. Since we've redone the gift shop, we've had a 500% increase in sales. Really significant. And it really shows that people want something that is handmade and comes from something that has a story. We've held 30 Indigenous-led programs, either in person or virtual, with Native artists, authors, and scholars. We have this ongoing virtual program. We've had 17 over the past year and a half, and with audiences from 50 states and 10 countries. Over the past year, since things have opened up, we've had 8 pop-up events, giving vendors the opportunity to sell their art or share their goods and services. And one thing that we want to ensure is that they're always free for them. We don't charge them to set up a table or exhibit within the museum. And a good example of this, on Indigenous Peoples Day, we had 350 people show up and buy goods from the 4 vendors we had that day. So this is a question that comes up all the time, is what is cultural appropriation? Or how do I know what I'm buying is authentic? So cultural appropriation is the use of symbols and artifacts, genres or rituals from another tribe. And you see this in art, mascots, logos. If any of you do yoga, you see this with, people burning sage in studios. And then the sales of kind of Native-inspired clothing. Oftentimes you'll see them described as boho products. Typically they're not Native-made if they're described in that way. So there are 2 acts in place to ensure that these products are authentic. One is the American Indian Arts and Crafts Act of 1990, and this prohibits non-Native individuals from misrepresenting their merchandise as Native. There are a few loopholes. They're allowed to sell it if they say it's Native-inspired, and it's difficult to enforce, but they keep a very good list of vendors that you can kind of check and balance from. And then the Buy Indian Act. This is really relevant for Native-owned companies to provide goods and services. And then it's meant to strengthen economic opportunity for Native-owned businesses and tribally controlled businesses. And this certification is done through the Department of Interior. You have to show your proof of citizenship within your tribe, and so the links are there. And then, as Andrew mentioned, there's also certifications within like cities, states, and counties as well. just these are some questions that I always refer to people when they ask about the authenticity of things. First is to ask yourself, who profits from the purchase? It's kind of prolific in the museum world. There are art dealers. Ask them how they, acquired the products, and then what percentage of that is going back to them. Are they native as well? It's okay to ask the vendor or the artist if they are enrolled or affiliated with a tribe or tribes. Not everybody is enrolled in a tribe, so it's okay to say your affiliations. Usually, if you don't see their tribal affiliation connected to their name or their business, they're probably not a native artist. So we run into this a lot where someone comes in or sends something and we ask them, can you provide your tribal affiliation? And if they don't respond, we know that they're not. And then again, is the company native owned? Look for their certification. A lot of native vendors will include this logo from the Indian Arts and Crafts Board or the Indian Economic Enterprise. And again, don't be afraid to ask for the tribal affiliation. People will gladly share that with you. If you're working with a non-native company, it's always okay to ask how they're compensating their native vendors. And you want to ask or inquire about, what's the upfront fee? Do they get royalties? How much? Is there a commission system in place? And I will pass it on to Betsy.